John Weiss is an author, photographer, and an artist, and he sends out a weekly email. In this week's email, he talked about building a new house in Nevada and talked about having space in this house to have a baby grand piano, which his wife had urged him to start doing to get back and remember his times of learning and playing the piano. And he talked about reviving my longing after all these years of learning how to play the piano. And he titled the email, "Why Dormant Passions Long to Be Revived." Morning, Mike, members and guests of our club. Today I want to talk about, for me, one nudge that helped me join this club in the fall of 2007. And to do this, I have to go back in time to the fall of 1979 in my undergraduate days at South Dakota State University in Brookings. And the nudges that I received from that point are written and verbal. And I want to share those with you today and then provide some ideas as to how to continue that. I'm also a member of Suburban Toastmasters, and I was working on a speech the past couple of weeks, which I was titling The Lost Library. Items that I thought I had, wish I had, but I no longer have in my house. And this was one of those items that I thought I had lost. I thought I had loaned this book. I thought I had maybe given it away or it's lost. As I started going through my papers, I found that, yes, I did have a copy of this book. And this is very similar to our Competent Communicator Guide from the previous education system that we used. And I thought, well, this is great. I have this book and it's not on Amazon right now. I then started to go through some of the papers from the class because I started remembering some of the speeches I gave in this class. We had to do an icebreaker and it was a personal belief that we had, and I talked about truth. Started going through the papers and uncovered these notes. This may well be the highest praise I've ever received from a teacher. And as you can see, I also had issues with volume in those days too. So I know I've kept way too many papers in my life, but to find this has been encouragement. And I'm sure I remember reading it, but I completely lost the track of it while all those years have passed. But this was quite encouraging for me to have this. The second nudge also came from Dr. Schleichman. He was also not just a speech professor, but he was also a coach and advisor on the debate team. And at one point after speech class my freshman year, he came up to me and asked me if I'd considered going out for a debate at SDSU. And at this point in my life, I was somewhat burned out on debate. And that's another speech entirely as to my reasoning for that. I debated 3 years in high school. And by the end of my senior year, I was somewhat burned out. And when he asked me about going out, I started going through my standard list of excuses. You know, it's too busy, class load, this, that, the other thing. And he seemed to accept that okay. He wasn't pushy or really coming back to me and asking me to reconsider. But for somebody leading a speech program at a land-grant university to ask me to go out for debate was, in a way, affirming. I didn't do it. And Craig is well known. I've done a speech at this Wednesday Suburban Club where I talked about actually, if I had said yes to that instead of no, how my life might have turned out, which is one of those Twilight Zone alternate reality kind of shows. And it actually, I think that speech actually worked. I actually had a couple of people convinced I had taken that path, the path not taken. But that question, have you thought about going out for debate, seemed to land somewhere in me, in my heart, in my mind, somewhere in me, still as one of those dormant passions that John Weiss talked about. It took a while for me to bring that passion back to life, the fall of 2007, when I joined first Speechcraft that this club ran, and then joined this club after Speechcraft ended. But yet, again, that question stayed with me. I can also think how many times I've spoken to professors and I don't remember anything that they've said at this time. Of course, it could be just the amount of time that's passed, but that has stayed with me. All right, so as part of this, 3 questions that have been coming up to me during this. For me, and I hope for the audience, I hope for you. Are there dormant passions that are in your life, in my life, that haven't been acted on? And if there are, how am I going to start acting upon that? What priority am I going to put upon that? What am I going to do to start bringing those dormant passions out to life, like joining this club and getting back into public speaking? Second question, who have I not thanked yet? How do I do that? I've been looking for Dr. Schliessman's address. He's now an emeritus professor at South Dakota State. I haven't been able to find his address. It might take a little more sleuthing than I'm used to doing to find his address. Are there people in your lives that have done something for you that you want to thank? And how will you do that? And the third question, which I know I'm guilty of. Who should I be encouraging? How should I be encouraging? That handwritten comment, you can bring that slide 4 back up, please. Are there people in my life, people in this club that I could be encouraging, like in this statement? Are there people in your lives that need that type of encouragement? I hope it's not too late for some of these people that I've been thinking about. And I also ask you to think about who in your life needs to be thanked, needs to be encouraged. Are there passions that you need to be bringing out? And if you are, I'd like to hear about that sometime. Sometime I will talk about my experience in high school debate. I know Rebecca has all kinds of experience as a coach for that and as a judge. At some point, I'll share that. But at some point, I'd like to also to hear how you're acting on those questions that I've asked today. Back to you, Mike.